Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Us, a show dedicated to bringing real help to real couples. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, guys? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and together we are high-performance marriage coaches.
We are cutting through the bullcrap and creating a movement of happy, healthy, badass couples all over the world.
Let's go! What's up, guys? Seth and Melanie here. Thank you for joining us again. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. We've been married 18 years. We know some stuff, and we want to share it with you because that is our mission. Don't go through the beep that we went through. Work hard, and you too can have an awesome marriage, and we are striving for that every day. So you are in the right place. Thank you for landing here today. Mel, what's up? Good looking. How's it going? What are we talking about today?
So we are actually going to talk about the power of co-regulation. So this is a topic that has been brought up in our women's group coaching. So if you're not a part of the women's group, join it. It's go to womensgroupcoaching.com and you can apply.
Nice URL.
That's exactly right. I just want it in my URL thing. But I'm excited about this topic because it's something that people don't talk about very much. And again, the topic is co-regulation. So regulate, the word.
First, let's define co-regulation. You're a definitions lady. I figured you'd have this. I know that you've probably read it, but what is the definition of co-regulation?
Well, I want to read the definition of regulate.
Okay.
So it says a rule or directive made by and maintained by an authority, the action or process of regulating or being regulated. So let's just think about like rules and regulations, right? Let's think of what is this song?
Regulators!
I don't know what that is, but I'm dancing.
Warren G.
Sing it more because I almost know it.
It's a good song.
It's like in there almost.
Nate Dogg.
What?
Nate Dogg and Warren G had to regulate.
Jeez. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Early 2000s. Okay.
So, rules and regulations apply. So regulations, again, the action or process of regulating or being regulated, the rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. So I think that, hold on, I'm going to do one more. Regulate definition, to control or maintain, right? So even hormone regulators, right? You're regulating something. So now we are, humans are meant to be in community. We're wired for connection all the time, like invisibly wired for connection. So I'm going to throw back to this concept that you probably have heard about, the babies that failed to thrive in the, what is that called? There was like a test, this terrible, terrible, terrible study that they did back in like Nazi Germany where they didn't touch babies.
Right. They've also done that with monkeys where they give, they take the mom away and the kid has like a metal mother figure that he can get milk from and stuff, or a soft teddy bear mother figure. And guess which one died after like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Like, so people actually need, it's not just like, oh, I want physical connection, love, attunement. We need it. And if we don't get it, we get sick, and babies can die without just nurturance. They can have all the food and water they need. They can have a blanket, a pillow, whatever, but they literally cannot survive without love and attunement and the chemical process of like mirroring somebody else. Like it's all part of the divine order of love and how we're made. And so co-regulation, if you can imagine, the word co means like together. We are co-regulating.
You co-create a co-regulation.
Collaboratively.
Collaborative. Co-labor. Work together, right?
So the idea of bringing up co-regulation is so important because in marriages, it's part of how we're supposed to be being with one another, but we aren't often. And I'll tell you where we see co-regulation a lot, where we should see it a lot anyway, we might not, is in parenting, right? Your little kid, they slip and their sucker goes flying and the sucker shoots out the window and goes into the trash somehow. And the kid freaks out, right? So what do you do as a parent? You're supposed to, I would say, help the kid co-regulate. They calm down themselves.
Well, you're helping the kid get regulated, but in a co-regulation fashion because you are doing it with them.
Yes.
You are modeling that with them, right? So, but to back up a little bit, we defined regulate and regulation. So the word regular comes from that. And regular,
I never
right?
thought about
So
that.
the word regular means what is your regular routine? Often in therapy, when I'm doing a mental health assessment for all kinds of diagnoses, I try to get to what the baseline is.
Mm-hmm.
And the baseline is at your normal state, when you're not in crisis, when you're not drug or alcohol induced, when you are not injured, when you're not anything, what is your baseline? And for most relationships, especially married long-term relationships, your baseline, in fact, your baseline desire is to be in community with your spouse, to be on the same page with your spouse, to be regulated on your own, right? Like most of the time, my baseline is positive, hardworking, fun, encouraging, helpful at a normal, at a baseline. That is my more often than not, right? When I'm off baseline, that's when the process
dysregulated,
then that is when the process of co-regulation can come in. So you take someone who is at a healthy baseline that can bring the other person back to their baseline. And in marriages, this probably happens back and forth 100 times a day.
right?
You know, and especially if you have kids, little kids, that happens maybe 1,000 times a day because you are the regulated one, bringing them back to baseline, co-regulation, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just looked up the root of the word regulate, and it's Latin and it's regulare, and it literally says to control by rules, which I love because our body has rules whether we like it or not.
Right.
Our body runs on chemicals whether we like it or not, and I love the idea of control by rules. That's just really, really cool to me. And also what you said, like we do this co-regulation dance without knowing it all the time because we're wired for it. So, but oftentimes, and I'm gonna kind of segue a few directions in this one because it came up in a women's group coaching call where, and this happens a lot. So I would love your opinion on it. It's something that's happened in our marriage, and it's something that happens in the marriages of the women that we work with. But it also could be that it's, sorry, I skipped something in my head and didn't say it out loud. So the thing that happens is that there is a spouse, usually the husband, who is not as well equipped or versed in the skills of self-regulation, right? And then the husband brings his crazy home and the wife's got to deal with it somehow. And usually what happens is it could be years that the wife is just trying to figure it out, navigate it, fix this. Well, he yells at me for the house being dirty, so I'll clean it more. And like, there's this big long dance that can happen. And then the wife gives up and says, well, this is his problem. He's got to figure it out. It's not mine to work on. And he's blah, blah, blah. He's the turd. So I shouldn't have to, spray the refresher or something. And so poopery. And so what I want to figure out is, number one, do you hear that in your men's groups that men are like, I come home and I'm a turd?
No, not often. And I will, so maybe you're just talking about an observation that you've seen, but this goes for both men and women. It's not just the men that are dysregulated.
Yeah, it's not at all
bonkers.
In this scenario, there is a specific scenario that I want to talk about that is directed towards men being dysregulated. But what were you going to say?
Well, honestly, most of the time in the Badass Husband Mastermind, go to badasshusband.com. Most of the conversation comes around of, hey guys, my wife and I got in an argument. She was having a hard time with this, and I was trying to help her, but that wasn't helping, doing the wrong thing, So then we often go back to like, okay, are you trying to help? Or are you trying to fix it for her to help and you're not listening? Or does she need you just to listen? And then deciphering, oh, okay, I'm a listener right now. Bring it on, listening, whatever. Or fixing, like, hey, go fix the sink. I don't want to talk about it. Just go fix the freaking sink, right? So oftentimes, I think, at least when the guys are talking about it, because this happens when we talk and process about things, we become regulated ourselves. It's kind of like journaling. You know, when we're talking to other like-minded men who have our interests in mind, that tends to regulate the guys. Now, is that the case when they're at home having an argument? No, probably a little bit of dysregulation for both of them. But after the fact, it's mostly guys coming to the group saying, "Hey, my wife was this," you know, very similar to what you're saying. Like, "Hey, my husband was this, ladies. What do I do?"
Right. Well, and that's fair because I think what people are doing is they're bringing in both of our groups. They're saying, "Hey, my partner was dysregulated today and I don't know how to manage it." And the group helps you regulate yourself. We help each other co-regulate.
Right.
So I like that you're saying that. I think I'm going to go back to the original reason for this conversation specifically is when you have a spouse, could be male or female, but I think it's really challenging when it's a husband. And I'm going to say this for a couple of different reasons. One, men are bigger. Two, men have been told societally that they're like the head of the household. So they can and wives will attest to this feeling. I can make a decision as a man that you cannot go against because you're just a woman. Like that does happen, even if it's subtle. Sometimes it's not said explicitly, but it can happen. And if this doesn't apply to you and you're not the type of man who would say that, please don't email me and be like, "Not all men say that." I know that. But when there is a man that is dysregulated and he brings his dysregulation into his family, into his home, right? That is like a tornado. It's like the Tasmanian devil just like comes in and goes and tears everything up.
It can be. And you're not saying that the guy comes home and he's just raising hell left and right. Not like an actual Tasmanian devil like on the TV show. But
relationally,
the relational, and men are leaders, and you're either a good leader or a bad leader, right? But there is no getting around that. You hold, if you're a guy, if you're a husband and a dad, especially a dad, you hold a level of leadership that you may not know that you have, and if you deny it, then that probably just means you need to work on something to be honest, right? But I promise you, come home and start yelling, see the vibe in the house. Come home smiling, encouraging, loving.
Right.
Let the kids see you kiss their mom, then tell me the vibe in your house, right?
Right.
You are leaders in that way. Obviously, I'm not saying that women can't be leaders as well, but I'm going to the evolutionary biological perspective right now.
Yeah, and
if I see a cow, which is elk, or a bull, elk, in the woods, or a giant male lion, or a huge shark, or whatever
in the woods,
I will be scared of both, right, male or female. But which one biologically, evolutionarily, is going to be stronger and more aggressive?
Yeah. Now all I can think of is I don't know if female sharks are smaller or less strong.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I know what you're saying.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So we are not that different from that. So the presence that you carry is different from a female. Duh. Obviously, everyone knows that. So I'm saying that in trying to normalize what Melanie is saying, not like, oh, all the husbands suck and they're dysregulated. No, she's not saying that. It is almost a different weight. But I will say to the caveat, and I don't know if we can maybe riff on this for a minute or if it's just a tangent, that women, wives, mothers also have a very strong presence too. You know, where do you think the saying, happy wife, happy life comes from? Because I have been in too many family relationships and also too many client therapist relationships to where stuff is just ruined because the mom or the whoever is just a mega B and they don't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's not cool at all.
Right. And I think the point of this whole topic of co-regulation is really looking at it a different way. And co-regulation is kind of like I wouldn't say it's not the definition of attunement, but it's such a massive part of attunement, which is really that you see me, you understand what I'm saying, we're attuned. And the fact that you can see how I'm feeling, agreeing with it or not is a side part, but you can understand that I feel sad or frustrated or whatever. And then you help me calm myself. So again, this is something that's easier to see in parent-child dynamics. And I'm going to use that really quick, actually. So one of our kiddos has just had a really rough time at school. And I knew that he was coming home. There was going to be a conversation that had to happen. And I literally was like, the best thing I can do right now is I can communicate the things that are necessary for the school part.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the most important thing to connect and communicate is attunement and co-regulation, because he's not going to be able to like regulate his own emotions about what feels like this really unfair thing. He's not going to be able to do that. Like, full stop. He can't do it. Who can? Me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can help him by being in a space of like, okay, I'm going to attune. I'm not saying it's okay to get away with behaviors. I'm not saying that, whatever, but I'm going to help him regulate. So I'm co-regulating with him to help his nervous system calm down so that he doesn't get into like crazy zone, freak out land, right? And so how this applies in marriage then, and why don't we set up two scenarios? There are two people I can think of, like specifically or not people, but like avatar concepts.
You and me.
Where there's, sure, you and I. So we'll do it in these like male and female versions of it. So that might be helpful. And I'll create fake scenarios for us. I think that would be really, really helpful.
Okay.
So let's say that you have a really hard time being at home, and that's when you become dysregulated, right? And so men often will say this, like, I'm fine at work. It's easy at work. It's easy when I'm out with my buddies. It's easy when I'm out golfing, but I get home and I can't handle those loud kids.
Nope.
Those yippy yappy barking dogs.
Can't stand them.
The poop in the yard, the whatever it is, the leaky
it.
gutter. And so they become dysregulated in the home. And so a lot of times, again, I'm trying to communicate something that might really make some people bristle. It did when I brought it up the other day in group. This idea that, okay, let's say Seth comes home. He's just had it to his gills with all of us kids or whatever. There are some options. One, I could get mad right back at you, right? I'd be like, oh yeah? And I've done that, right? Mm-hmm. So I could yell right back. I could match his energy, which is most likely what everyone's going to want to do.
Right.
Unless you're a 2 on the Enneagram and you're a helper. Then you'll just want to make everything normal and safe.
No,
whatever.
That's a 9.
2s are helpers, I think.
Okay.
Okay, we need you. But so there's the option 1 is I can yell at you right back and meet your energy, match it. Option 2 is I can try to just make everything better and whatever. Option 3 is co-regulate. I can help you calm your nervous system, but that does not mean you get away with being a jerk. You can still say we're all the worst. You can still yell at us. It's not what I'm saying. But I can like attune to Seth and go, oh, I see that he had a hard day. I can bring my calmness to his Tasmanian devilness and help him pull his energy to like the regulated, regular state. Baseline. Now, if your baseline is too high, though, that's also a problem too.
Yes.
Some people's baseline is like not normal, I would say, not like calm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you
like
kidding?
some people are like humming way high all the time, and they're never going to get back to baseline.
And that's when we go to family of origin. We go to what we know. You know, I remember I've had a zillion clients, but this one client in particular, very, very chaotic house. Just very chaotic. And every time I would do home visits at the house or anywhere else, he would have to have music just literally blasting, or the TV was blasting or something, because that helped drown out all the yelling and the kids and the everything going nuts and everything. So he became in that heightened state of anxiety, really. What do we call it? Dysregulation was regular for him, right? So anything apart from that norm is going to feel weird.
Wrong.
Right? So if you grew up like that in a heightened state of cortisol and all this stuff, then the first thing you're going to want to do is, yell right back at your wife, or yell right back at your
run
husband.
Away or
run away. Like, okay, think about mirror neurons. We've talked about those before. You smile at a tiny little baby. What are they going to do? They're going to coo and smile, right? You make a weird face at them. Just
do that to the dogs.
Just like a flatline face.
I post up at the dogs, they go,
like, I mean, they're getting ready, right? Yeah. So mirror neurons, that's a real thing. You can help co-regulate, but you have to be calm and regulated yourself. So there's the fights, there's the freeze or flee kind of thing. Okay, just make things better. Okay, I'm gonna like peacemaker and all this stuff, which also can go back to family of origin. Maybe so one of your parents do that all the time. Or you can do the third option, what you're saying. However, you better make sure that you are doing what you need to do to be in a regulated state often, right?
Right.
And this quote that I made up myself, the quickest way to heal a marriage, the quickest way to get the marriage you want, the quickest way to do basically anything in life you want is to do it first. What are you smiling at?
Your quotes, whenever you say a quote, you make it like 8 times longer than like it's like a paragraph.
I have to elaborate on my own words.
It's funny.
I have to expound upon my own sentences.
So you're saying do it first?
Yeah. You want a good marriage? The quicker you get right, the quicker your marriage will get right. So work on yourself. If you want to get to that level 3 that we said, there's 3 points here that you can take away. 1, match their bullcrap energy. Sorry, it's not bullcrap. It's completely okay to be stressed for reasons at work, outside stuff, traffic, you're just kind of fed up or whatever. That's fine, right? However, what you decide to do with that is going to make it fine or not fine. So match their high energy, which typically you cannot put out a fire with more fire.
Right.
That never works. Try to appease and make things better, which is just a Band-Aid that does not last. If you do that long enough, guess who's going to want to come to coaching and say, my husband is whatever? It's because you put up with it for so long and you're resentful and you're mad at yourself.
Then your husband never learns the coping skills.
Right. So number 1 and number 2 are not good options. Numero 3 is the option. Get right yourself. Be in a good position yourself. So let's talk about that for a hot minute. What do you need to do to get in a good position to yourself? What do you do daily or very, very often that has nothing to do with me or the kids or business? What do you do that helps you?
I wanted to make a joke, but it wouldn't be helpful.
Whoa.
What
was it going to be?
Nothing. I won't say it. Dedicated to not saying that joke.
Now I'm all like weird and thinking about that then.
I was going to say drugs.
But
I don't do drugs. So I do things like pray. Actually, like a lot. I pray tons throughout the day. Not like in one. I don't like sit down one time and pray. I pray like all throughout the day.
Snack prayers.
Snack prayers. I listen to Joyce Meyer typically. Either a podcast that's like a Joyce Meyer vibe, a Wayne Dyer vibe, or even Blurry Creatures helps me out.
Okay.
Which sounds crazy, but eat right, sleep right. I don't know. I think the more that I talk to people and get feedback from people and work with people and see how people actually are, the more I realize I probably do a lot of like constant like course correction in my mind, way more than other people are doing.
Right.
And I used to think people do that. I'm like, oh yeah, people do that. People assess if they should watch TV every time. They don't just sit down and watch it. People assess, should I eat this piece of bread or not? They don't just eat bread, right? They think about it first. And so I think I thought more people thought that way than they actually do. But that is one of the things I think constantly all the times I want to perform at my highest and be my best in all things all the time. That is always my mission in everything. And so I'm constantly like, I think of like something trying to tip over and you're just like kind of gentle nudges, keeping it centered.
You're calibrating at each point.
All the time, little calibrations though, not like big, massive. I don't let the whole thing fall over and then I got to get a crane in there to pull it back up,
right? Which
is what I think most people do. They fall so hard one way. And then, again, it's that wrecking ball analogy that we've talked about in the past where what felt like like a pendulum changing, like, oh, well, I'm moody one day and then coming back. And that could be okay for a while. After, if you really let things go, it's a wrecking ball. You're just smashing stuff left and right. So my goal is always like propped it up in the center and you're sort of just tipping anytime that it gets a little squirrely. So that keeps me regulated.
Right. So you're doing little things that have nothing to do with me, the kids, the business, although they impact me and the kids in the business, right?
Yeah. And they're essentially for that. To keep myself regulated constantly and on the right track is for you and the business and myself and my family and our listeners, all that.
Yeah. So stuff like that is actual self-care and not the bullcrap self-care of let's go girls, screw it, and then you end up in who knows where. You
Las Vegas.
Vegas with painted nails and whatnot,
Dead.
right? I'm just kidding. Well, sort of kidding about that, but there's a
huge misconception of what self-care
maybe
is.
coined this term that I've never even heard of, toxic self-care.
Okay.
#toxic self-care, right?
Holy cow.
Dudes do this by thinking self-care is, hey, I deserve this 6-pack and a pizza on a Wednesday night. That's not
a really good
That's
term.
not self-care. That is actually self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everything done in moderation. Like, okay, I go running and it has zero to do with you or the kids, right?
You're just running, trying to get away from us?
Yes. Running. You're still following me. No, or the cold dip, or working out, or reading, or journaling, or listening to podcast, or shooting archery. Like that kind of stuff is actual self-care. And that can be anything for you as long as it's in moderation. You could say, Seth, I really like to, I don't know, I'm just thinking of like female self-care for some reason. Seth, I really like to go to the spa. Okay. Go to the spa. Are you also on top of every other duty and responsibility, and are you accountable to stuff?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think
Because-
also oh, sorry.
Well, so much is, oh, I had a hard day, self-care. Oh, I had another hard day, self-care. Oh, slept like hell, self-care.
Right.
And a mental health day, self-care. I'm like, well, that's not getting,
right.
That's like saying, I want a huge bank account. I'm going to go spend more money, self-care.
Yeah.
I feel bad, self-care.
Can I talk now?
Toxic.
Okay. Okay. Every time I try to talk, that is a good jam though.
It is.
So I think another thing too that I want to add in here that I've worked really hard on that I don't really talk about all that much is really having like, I don't know if the word would be like a meditative mind. So I try really hard to always be looking at the thoughts in my mind, not thinking the thoughts in my mind, right? I'm not like, Seth's such a jerk because he's doing this. I'm like, oh, I want to feel like Seth is a jerk. Why do I want to feel that way? Oh, because he's doing something that I'm not getting to go do. But does that really make him a jerk? It doesn't. It actually just makes me.
Nope.
Maybe it just means I'm jealous or I need a hobby or I need to work, whatever it is, right? And so I have what I'll call, I guess, I don't know, a meditative mind, an aware mind of trying to like, again, pull thoughts up and out of being a lived experience and instead have them be a evaluated experience, right? So it's like that an unexamined life is not worth living quote vibe. Also, Kay is going to just laugh her brains out when she listens to this because that's like the stance of the 7, on the Enneagram, like never feels their feelings. They don't feel them. They just think about them.
Oh.
And that is like truly, truly how I live my life. I like hold up my feelings and go, is this worth it? I don't feel it. I just think about it.
What do you do then when you say, oh, is this worth it? Not really.
That's exactly what I do.
I know, but then what do you do after that? Oh, that's not worth it. I'll go to this next thing.
I make a choice.
I think it's worth it.
I don't know. What do you mean? If you think it's worth it? I'm not sure what you mean.
Don't know.
Okay. But you asked me earlier what I do to regulate myself.
Yes.
And that is it. That is a bunch of the ways that I regulate myself. I am constantly examining the choices that I'm making. Should I yell in Seth's face? Should I eat a bag of brownies or something? I don't know. No, maybe not.
Talkies.
I don't even know what that is. But back to this idea of how co-regulation can work in a marriage and why it does make some people bristle. So let's say Seth comes home and he's just so angry and he's anxious and he's whatever and he wants to yell in my face and then call me names. I am not responsible for his feelings, but I'm also his wife, right? I'm not responsible for Seth feeling that way and acting that way, but I am his partner. And as his partner on a team that we are in together, right? We are in a team, right? My hope would be that he could self-regulate.
There's no I in team.
Cool.
Michael Scott.
Okay. My hope is that Seth could come home and see his own behavior. But let's say we've been married 18 years and he still can't. So instead of fighting, yelling, whatever, maybe this time around I'm going to try co-regulation. Now, if you've ever thought of this idea or heard about it before, it's so uncomfortable and so awkward. And I gotta say that right out of the gate. And And here's the thing that's really important. I believe that people should all do before attempting co-regulation, unless they think their partner would be receptive to it. I think that you should have a conversation with your spouse. Say, hey, Seth, every time you come home from work, it really looks like it's hard for you. Now, okay, the conversation is not meant to start a fight.
Right.
So we're going to do a co-regulation conversation that is not a fight. No one's mad. It's not when Seth is mad. It's when we're all normal and we're going to say, hey, I want to talk about having like a co-regulation plan. Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Seth says, okay, we can talk about it. And then I would say, when you come home from work, it really seems like you're okay for about 20 minutes, but about, 25 minutes in, you start getting mad, you start getting agitated, you slam doors, like you're just really mad. And I don't like this pattern. It's been going on for so long and I don't know how to manage it. Can we try something new? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we try, when you come home from work, if you're starting to feel like you're dysregulating, that's the word. You're getting out of your regular state of being. You're starting to become anxious, freaked out, mad, pissy, whatever. May we as a team be able to like raise a white flag and say, hey, I see it happening again. Can we co-regulate? Can we come together? Can we hug? Can we just sit together?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's about bringing your partner's nervous system down. In an ideal world, your partner can do this on their own. In the real world, your partner may suck at it and have no idea that it's even an option to regulate themselves. Most people have no idea. They just go, I'm mad, and so I should be mad.
Right.
Like, no, you can actually choose and regulate on purpose, self-regulate on purpose.
However, you cannot do that unless you do step 3.
What's step
Remember
3?
step 3? Be regulated yourself. So what does actual self-care look like? You can't...
Well, maybe not self-care. It's self-regulation. What does self-regulation look like?
Well, doing the things that help you get self-regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't pour from an empty cup, that old adage, right? You can't help your partner. You can't do co-regulation if you are not regulated yourself.
Right. I'm sorry. My assumption is that one partner is regulated.
Uh-huh.
So I apologize. I didn't clarify.
Honestly, that's not always true.
No, and I know. But that was the assumption I was working from, is one partner is like up here and the other one is, more regulated. But really the goal is to have like a co-regulation map, and it has resources on it of what you should do when you both need to regulate. Now you do bring up a great point. You bring up a really great point in saying that it's often, even the dysregulation of the husband in this example will create dysregulation in the wife. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So your anger will make me angry. Your anxiety will make me have anxiety. And so having a roadmap back to regulation is so vital. And again, I'm bringing this up specifically in a husband and wife relationship where the husband is dysregulated, because so often I have heard this from client after client after client. It is not my job to make him feel XYZ or to calm him down.
Mm-hmm.
No. What are your thoughts on that based on like moments in our marriage when I've helped you co-regulate? Should I have just said, not my job, idiot?
No. So as a therapist, right?
You are that.
Yes, I am that. That is not you. You are not responsible if I'm angry. You can do things that create anger in me, right? You're not responsible if I'm happy. I'm basically getting back to the point of differentiation. You see what I'm saying? So in a marriage partnership, especially in a Christian marriage partnership,
marriage dyad,
you do have more responsibility than you may think in that, right? We're supposed to serve one another, right? So I can serve you by helping you regulate.
Right.
If you're having a hard time, okay, I can do this.
Right. May I use a weird picture analogy that popped into my head?
Sure.
So it makes me think of if I came home from if you came home from work and I was trying to lift a really heavy sofa and you look at me and you're like, ain't my baby crying, and you just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're married. Help me lift the sofa.
Right. But it wasn't my choice to clean under the sofa,
right,
or to rearrange the living room, was it?
No.
Of course, I sit on it and I'm part of the house and part of the living room situation, right? And I enjoy the couch.
Right.
But I didn't say move it. I didn't say, hey, clean under there. I didn't say anything like that.
But you see that I'm struggling with it.
But
right?
it would be inconsiderate to not do that.
To not help me.
Now, if, and this happens way often, if you said, hey, I threw my back out because I lifted the couch and you weren't here and it's your fault.
Right.
What idiot would believe that?
I love it when you make that face.
What?
Like you do it, it's very funny.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that same scenario plays out over and over and over again. I'm not happy because of you. I can't do this because of you. If you hadn't done this, it wouldn't have been a roadblock for me to do this. Now, okay, yes, there are some truths to that.
Right.
If you hadn't spent, a zillion on credit cards, then we could have good credit and like we could buy a house. That is your fault. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So things like that. But obviously use wisdom and discernment here. Don't take responsibility for your spouse's bad behavior. And also realize the part that you play in a marriage to co-labor, to collaborate on things that you both want. Oh, Melanie's having a hard time with the couch. Melanie's having a hard time, you're going to get mad at me for this, PMSing. Or Melanie is having a hard time with whatever. She is having a hard time. Help her. How about just draw the line there?
Right.
Oh, I didn't decide to move the couch. I don't have a vagina, so I don't have PMS. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's her fault. Deal with it.
Right.
Is that okay? No. It is your job to help. It is not your job to take on everything. Oh, she moved the couch. Okay, well, I should have been home to do that. And she's going to be mad at me for this. Well, now we need a new couch. And maybe she doesn't even like the house. Now we have to move. Right. And it just snowballs into that. That's crazy town. We've been there before, for sure.
Right.
And we've had a bunch of clients there before. And that is not what we're saying. You can help your spouse by serving your spouse, loving your spouse, by helping them co-regulate. A hard time, this is where one of my thesis was in grad school,
Your
right?
Thesi?
A hard time is a hard time no matter what. And I use the example of I have a 4-year-old, they're eating a sucker. I have another one in my pocket, but they don't know it. They drop the sucker, get cat hair on it. Oh, they're crying. Right? You as a parent, okay, you know that you can help them. Are you going to judge them for their perception of what is making them uncomfortable right now?
Right.
If you're doing that, then that's weird. Don't do that.
You little idiot. I have another one in my pocket.
But they don't know that, right? So it's your job to help them and to co-regulate with them.
Right.
Well, as a parent, you have to do way more work than a kid, obviously, right? So,
but let me say too, oh, sorry.
Well, go ahead.
In that, and people also don't like how this is going to feel. With the parent-child relationship, you are teaching your child how to self-regulate. You're teaching them. They don't have this skill automatically. They have to learn it, right? You're teaching them self-regulation through the act of co-regulation. And that's how we learn. Spouses, you are doing the same thing for your partner. And people don't like it when I say that.
Think about it this way. And in the context, you said, oftentimes, at least the clients that I've had, societally, culturally, and even in our own marriage, oftentimes I can be less regulated than you. That sounds weird.
You said it, not me. You said it, not me.
I have a mood disorder or something like that. I'm not saying that. It's like sometimes jumping to conclusions, being less patient, not seeing the bigger picture in some things. In other things, it's completely reversed, right? So
Never.
Melanie, yeah, right.
Never.
Melanie can help me in that. Now, say this. How many hours have you spent in an actual gym with free weights?
1.
Right? Not a lot.
More than 1, but yes.
Not a lot.
Not much.
So I don't expect you to go up to Thrive, Maple Valley, or my other gym and go, all right, where's the bench? Let's throw these plates on here.
Let's throw these plates on here, bros.
Let's do this. 4 sets of 8. Crank it out. You know?
I don't go over there because there's always a guy going, yeah! And you're like, okay, we know it.
So, in that situation, I know something that you don't.
Yeah.
I would be right to go and help you and teach you.
Or even in car stuff. I mean,
Anything.
there's not anything, some things.
So basically, here's the formula of what we're saying. You're good at stuff, you help me. You're stronger at stuff, you help me.
Yep.
I'm good at stuff, I'm stronger at stuff, I help you. Understand?
Yes.
And if I see that you are struggling in the gym with 2 45-pound plates or something like that, I'm going to run over and help you.
Right.
Or if you're holding a couch, if you see me going, being impatient with the kids or doing this, step in lovingly, kindly, saying, yo,
I think
let's chill this.
Yeah.
Let's do this together.
I think the weights analogy is a really good one because it's
Of course
actually
it is. I thought of it.
dangerous. It's dangerous. I could harm myself, right? In my dysregulated inability to know how to navigate 45-pound weights and a bar and a thing, I could actually get hurt. So can you if you don't know how to self-regulate in our house with our kids.
Right.
People can get hurt emotionally, relationally, physically harmed, right? So some of the things I wanted to mention, and sorry, that's why I was taking notes. I didn't want to forget it, was that oftentimes we hear, again, that like, well, it's not my job to do this for him or for her. Yeah, it's not your job, but it's your responsibility as a spouse to help walk down a new path together. And that's one of the things, like, if Seth is dysregulated and I know that it's got to change or something, this happens actually a lot with our kids in parenting. You parent a really different way than I do. And I think your parenting style, we've talked about it to some degree. In both of our families of origin, we want to kind of find a happy medium together in our new family of origin that we're creating. So not as lax as my parents, but not as sort of like, go pick your own switch to whip you with as your parents. And so we're trying to find this happy medium. And so a lot of times I will say, like if I see that Seth is kind of slipping back into, maybe hyper action that is not helpful, I will do a little co-regulating nudge. It's not like, I'm taking over and you're so dumb and you should never parent. It's like, hey, I think that hurts him more than helps. Does that make sense? And that's really what that is. It's a co-regulating nudge back to, hey, this is kind of our center that we said we wanted to be at, which brings me to the fact that you must state explicitly, where is your regulated center as a marriage? Where do you want it to be? How do you want to be when stuff is normal? Most couples don't. Most couples think and make this assumption that they know what regulation and like normal marriage, whatever looks like. Draw a map of it. Write it out. Use the words. We just did this with clients the other day. We actually said, paint a real picture, both of you, of what the words that are like the kind of the cluster of your ideal relationship looks like and what words represent it. So it's peaceful, loving, kind, patient. It's basically all the things in the Bible.
Right.
But it's like adventurous, fun, whatever, right? So if that's your target, like again, I keep thinking of like a balanced, something that has like a really small focal point that's trying to balance. You got to just kind of keep it up there, which is all of life. Health is that way. Diet is that way. Relationships are that way. They don't just like and stay in the right spot. You got to always work on them. Same with brushing your teeth. You know what I mean?
Tony Robbins says, if something is not growing, it's dying. If you're not growing, it's dying. Anyone who has worked out one single second of their life and had some accomplishments, if you don't keep that up,
right, it just goes. You just lose it all.
It goes away. That is why it's a perfect segue for the Power Couple Planner that Melanie made. This highlights all this stuff. What do you want to do? It is a roadmap that you co-create in a co-regulated state, mind you.
Oh yeah,
right? That has intentional connection, intentional intimacy, intentional date nights. It's got zillions of conversation starters. It's got date night ideas. It's got the clearing structure in there. It has a bunch of tools in one. And the process of using this, guess where you're going to get if you use it over and over and over. It's like, if I save $100 a week for 1 year, I'll have $5,200, right?
Don't ask me.
That will happen. That will happen if I commit to that one small thing, right? It's compound interest. So powercoupleplanner.com.
Yeah. Nope.
Shoot.
Just go to anatomyofus.com and go get it there.
That's right.
But yeah, it's this idea of like constantly just a tiny course corrections to staying centered and regulated, and co-regulation is a part of that process. It is actually your job as a partner in marriage to help your spouse co-regulate until they learn how to do it. Now, I am not saying your spouse is allowed to yell in your face, call you an idiot, step all over you, none of that. Now, hear this caveat that's the size of Arkansas, but no one knows where Arkansas is. That's a joke for my women's group coaching ladies. As much as I love the world, I don't know where anything is on it. But
I got attacked by a drive-by paintball gunner at a show in Arkansas one time.
That's not fun.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
so mad. Oh my gosh. I was looking for anything to throw as hard as I could at this guy. But it was a drive-by paintball shooting.
I mean, it's kind of funny.
It was
but
not
it's
funny.
not. If it was me, I'd be mad. But
Anyway.
I don't remember what I was saying. Co-regulation.
Sorry.
Arkansas.
Do not use, oh, well, she didn't help me, so
Oh,
I had
this
to
is
fly
it.
off.
It was the caveat,
Please.
the size
That's a
of
wuss.
Arkansas. The caveat is if your partner is consistently expressing behavior that is really damaging, and you, even if you're like, I can't co-regulate with this person, go to therapy. Partner who's dysregulated all the time, get your A word into therapy. Don't get your as into therapy. Do not burden other people with your garbage. I am not trying to make you feel bad either. So I don't want anybody to hear me that way. People are going to, I imagine, but listen, your mental health should be something that you prioritize healing and fixing and working on all of the time, because it can be what is that called? The sail, when the sails of a ship go into the water. It's called a water anchor, sea anchor. It can pull everyone else down if you're not regulating and you don't even know how. So this is where that sort of awareness mind, that sort of meditative, like, I used this analogy with my friend the other day. We were talking about this. You're going to know it's you. But we talked about this idea that Dan Siegel talks about having levels of awareness. Now, Dan Siegel got knocked out he was on like a trip studying. Dr. Dan Siegel was in like South America studying something, and he was riding a donkey, and the donkey's saddle switched upside down, and he was stuck underneath this donkey and was drugged like 20 yards. He knocked all of his teeth out, was completely knocked out. And they thought he was dead. And he didn't die, but he woke up and had amnesia. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know what water was. He didn't know what the sky was. He didn't know what a donkey was. But he remembers this like 24-hour period of amnesia being like, everything was amazing. Like the water going over the sockets where my teeth had just been felt like amazing. And so he's like, that's when he started studying the mind. He's like, how could I have two minds, where one mind would be like, if I lost my teeth, I'd go crazy. But then it actually happens and I'm like, this is awesome, right? So he talks about this idea of our versions of ourselves, these different versions of ourselves, right? So I'm hoping that you, if you're listening, have had this experience where you're doing something, but then a little tiny voice way, way, way far away is like, what are you doing? Maybe you shouldn't do that.
My dad used to say there was a little bird on your shoulder.
A little bird on your shoulder. So that little tiny voice is like the higher level you, right? That little tiny voice. I remember hearing that little tiny voice a handful of times when I was arguing with you. Be like, stop.
Good. Thanks, voice.
And so the
Holy
person
Spirit.
of you could very well be the Holy Spirit, but the person of you is in this, like, think of a big arena. I think of the Colosseum for some reason, and you're in the middle of it. You're
the man in the arena.
What's that guy? Marcus Aurelius.
Right.
You're in the middle of the arena, and that's you. You've got your sword, you're fighting. So that's you. You're yelling at your wife, or you're yelling at your husband, or you're being a jerk to your kids. And then it's the little you, the Holy Spirit you, the little bird you, is way up in the farthest corner, not bleacher, I guess. What is it called? Stand in the arena, looking down at the you with the sword, who's tearing your world apart. I want you to begin thinking from the perspective of the up in the very top corner man.
Your higher self.
Your higher self. Because the higher self can look down at you coming home from work and just putting everyone on blast about everything and be like, hey, bro, that's probably not going to help you very much.
Cool it.
And I don't think your wife loves that. And I don't think you're proud of that behavior.
That's right.
Right? And so there's just a lot to be said for being able to self-regulate and being aware of what your energy does to the people around you, right? It bursts of crazy energy, yelling at people, screaming at them, hitting somebody, those are not without severe consequence. They have a ripple effect forever.
Let me tell you this.
Say
I was
it.
on one of the days I took the kids biking and we went to the river and stuff, right? Kind of dad hangout day. And we also went to the pond across the street at the church. And I said, hey, Mariner, let's see. And this is like a circular pond, sort of circular. I was like, okay, let's see who can throw the stone in the most of the middle of the pond, right? And he loved the idea, right?
Yeah.
So we're throwing tiny little rocks in the thing. And then I said, oh, you see the ripples there? Now watch as they go and go and go. And that ripple touches every single corner. It touches the cat fiddles. What?
Cattails. Cat fiddles is cute.
The cattails, the grasses, the everything, the roots. It touches every part of that eventually, you know? And he said, yeah, but see how less they are. I said, yeah, but it touches them nonetheless, right? And then there was like a brief moment when we just had a moment of basically experiential outdoor therapy kind of stuff. Like, look at this metaphor for how, you know, how you talk to your sister, how you talk to your brother. What do you do? Your action goes out and can affect every single thing. So, guys, it is respectable from man to man. It's respectable, not just from your wife, like, oh, this will give me more sex or whatever. No, dude to dude. When we get emails talking about, well, my wife did this, I'm like, instant not respect. You see what I'm saying? My wife made me feel this. And
you're saying if it's like a retaliation thing? Well, I yelled because
instant, instant not respect. And I promise you, no one that I listen to would find that respectable either. Like Mickler or Milet or any of those dudes. Goggins were like, whatever, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, regulate yourself. Going back to what we said, okay, you can either mirror the actions of the dysregulated person. Number one, option one, no good. Don't do that. Number two, flee or fawn, just make things better, blah, blah, blah. Put a Band-Aid over it. No, don't do that. Do number three, self-care and regulate. Do what you have to do in a non-selfish way, not, hey, I'm going on a vision quest, you know, for 4 months. See you later because I got to get right. We've known people that do that, you know, and they leave their kids in the fray. They leave their wife in the fray or their husband.
Yeah, the self-care element
no cool. So the self-care, go back, rewind. Well, you know what I mean by self-care.
Self-regulation is what I think. I need to be regulated in order to help you be regulated.
You have to do it in order to practice it, right?
That was a long, funny long
I know.
pause.
So I couldn't think of stuff. So hopefully this has been helpful. The 3 points, we want to be at point 3 all the time. All the time.
Then the one thing I will say too is like find someone who lives this way and then emulate them. Just copy what they do. Like it's not that hard. And I do want to say a funny thing. I also said this the other night with a client. It was like, how many more times do you want to yell at your husband or your wife? How many more times would you like to be dysregulated and cause chaos in your home? Just go ahead and mark it on your calendar now so everyone can be prepared.
I have 10 more times. Then after that, I'll change.
And the reason I'm saying that is because everybody goes, well, I don't want to do it ever again. Okay, well then stop. You're the only one that can stop yourself from being dysregulated. Stop yourself.
And if you want to deep dive into this and you're interested in coaching, it's 90 days of looking at this every single week, every single day, having us in your back pocket via Voxer, right? Text, emails, homework. Go to, or email us, or just go to anatomyofus.com, click on the coaching tab. And if you want to change your body, change your mind, change your marriage, change your spirit, change yourself, change your family, coaching is for you. It's a time investment and it's a financial investment. But things that are worth it are worth investing for. Absolutely. So
it makes me laugh because it's like, be careful. Sign up for coaching and you won't be the same.
No, tons of our clients have done it and they're glad that they did. And tons of people had the first call and said, oh, this isn't for me. I promise you, they're not glad they did it. I was talking to somebody this morning.
They're not glad they didn't do it.
That's right. I was talking to somebody this morning. I say this all the time. I am never, and I mean literally never, not glad, happy, satisfied that I went to the gym.
That you did the work.
That I did the cold dip. That I ran, the 2 miles or whatnot. I have never in my life gone, after I completed a workout, something hard, a good job, something like that, I have never gone, man, that was a waste of time.
Right.
I should have done something else during that time. I should have watched TV. I should have scrolled Facebook. I should have, ate cake.
Yeah.
No, not ever.
Right.
And you know how good that feels?
Yeah.
We've done coaching too. So
this is how we live every day.
If you want that, if that sounds good for you and you're freaking serious, don't waste your time. Don't waste our time. Click on the coaching tab, anatomyofus.com. Hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, any comments or emails or anything, email us at hello@anatomyofus.com as well, and we'll get back to you. All right. Good job.
Talk to you later. Yep.
Pound it. Boom. Bye.
Pound it. Noggin.
Thanks for listening to Anatomy of Us. This podcast is produced by my mom, Melanie Studley, and hosted by my dad, Seth Studley. Our show is edited and published by our producer, Reba Hansen, from Creative Media Support. Special thanks to our Patreon members that get an extra episode every week. Thanks for watching. Love you. Bye.